Hey, all right. You are listening to the Deadman's Tome podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Deadman. This show is broadcast live from a trailer park deep in the heart of Meth County, Texas. And it is a show that is too sexy on YouTube. Completely demonetized because it's too sexy for YouTube. Anyway, with us tonight is Tyler James. How's it going, Mr. James?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much.
Hey,
good to be on.
Hey, it's good to have you. It's good to have you. I'm glad to hear that you're doing well. Now, you know what? I don't have any. Announcement. I could announce this. Things in the Well, Infected, Book 1 and Book 2. Get these things. You're gonna want these books. They're gonna. The pitch was something to keep you occupied during the lockdown, but the lockdowns are over for the most part, right? But if you want to read some horror that's themed around pandemic and the COVID, coronavirus, all that, check these out. Just about every story is tailored with that theme. And the thing I like about short story collections is that you get some variety, different voices, different point of views, different flavor. So you might not like all of them, but you're going to like some of them. That's damn sure. If you want my personal preference, I like Book 2 over Book 1, but they're both pretty good. Anyway, with that said, I think we're good to go. You can help support the show. You can feel free to donate during the show or become a patron, patreon.com/deadmanstone. So, Tyler James, for those who don't know who you are, I start off with one question. Who are you and what do you do?
Sure. So I live in Wisconsin, and I write horror fiction most of the time. Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that the land of cheese?
That's right, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not, well, I guess what we're known for here in Wisconsin is our cheese and I guess our beer now. I guess people are, or at least are drinking. I'm not sure about the quality of our beer. But beer and cheese seem to be the big hoorah up here.
Hey, those are two things I like, beer and cheese.
Yeah, I enjoy the cheese. Beer every once in a while. But yeah, I live here, and usually I write horror fiction. Sometimes I just write strange tales. I'm a relatively young author. I just had my first professional publication last year. I sold a story called The Typewriter to an anthology book called Accursed, and that came out by Jolly Horror Press. And it's a super cool little story, and that book's full of pretty awesome stories about cursed items. And I also got a short story collection, 311 pages worth of tales of horror and oddity. So that's what I do.
That's right. And that collection is called The Daydreams of the Damned. Is that right?
Yep, Daydreams of the Damned, Tales of Horror and Oddity.
All right. And people could get that on Amazon, I'm assuming?
Yep, on Kindle and paperback. It's real cheap. Real cheap. Okay. It's like $9.99 per paperback.
Now, what's the feedback like with this book, Daydreams of the Damned?
Well, shipping has been so damn slow, due to the COVID thing.
Yeah.
So the books are going out. I've sold out my small stock of author copies. So they're going out, but there's only one review so far, and it's a 5-star review, so that's a good sign. And my mother didn't make the review, so that's probably good standard, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know what the feedback is quite yet, but I'm sure maybe in another month we'll know a lot more. Probably.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they will review. You know what? And some of them probably try to review, and Amazon doesn't let it happen. I know a lot of times when I give out freebies, let's say they try to do a review, but Amazon just won't let it happen because our names are too close, because they know we are connected somehow. They know. They just.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if they know that the name is definitely, if they know if the name is in the book, or closely associated with the book, or if they. So yeah, it's weird. But so I want to ask you, man, like, what is it about writing that brings you joy, that brings us joy. And I know that might
Yeah.
sound like kind of a flowery subject for a horror podcast, but let's talk about that.
Yeah, I just think that there's multiple things about writing. There's like tiny little loves when you're writing, and they all kind of coalesce together sometimes. And the overall experience. I mean, for me, I know not everybody feels joy when they write. I think there's a phrase that goes around, something like, "I hate writing, but I love having written." And I don't feel that way, but I know, there's a number of things when I'm writing that I love. Like I love, for example, when I'm writing some characters and they do that thing that you didn't expect them to do.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
it's just such a delightful surprise when that happens.
Mhm.
Because when that happens, it means that you've lost yourself, in the story, and yeah, you don't suffer when you write. You just enjoy telling a story and letting the characters do their own thing.
Now, what about
And,
that? What about the part where you're staring at a blank page and you're like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do? What about that part?
Yeah.
You enjoy that part?
Yeah.
Is that part?
Yeah, absolutely.
That part's a challenge,
It is hard.
right?
For sure.
Is it just me? Or is that the part where it's like, I have this plan in my head, but now I'm putting it down,
Right. Yeah, I think for sure I deal with that too, the blank page. That can be really intimidating, because you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. Like you have this monologue, or at least I have this monologue going on in my head, like, oh shit, I don't have it today. I had it yesterday, but I finished that story. Now I got to start anew. And that can be pretty tough.
right?
Yeah, it can be. But I think something that helps to keep in mind, I read a book by Natalie Goldberg, and she said something like, expect to write crap. Like,
Right.
And when you expect to write crap, you don't put that pressure on yourself to write something that Shakespeare would have written, or Stephen King, or whoever
Right.
it is you're emulating.
And even they struggled. I mean,
Yeah.
Stephen King, I don't know, but I'm sure I'm pretty sure he scratched out a bunch of bad ideas. It's just, I don't know about you, but like when you start writing like the first chapter, or actually the first lines of the book even, or the short story, whatever you're working on, it's like you find yourself fixated on getting that one paragraph right for some reason, or maybe I'm OCD about that. It's just I keep on like deleting the sentence or rewriting it. I'm like, this is horrible. This is a bad way to introduce, It's like I want to get it just right, as if because I mean the first few lines, the first paragraph is important. So it's a focus. Like I want to, the story idea, what the characters I'm playing around with in my head are cool. I need a good hook in the beginning, something that will grab their attention. What is it going to be, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let me ask you: when you are working on that first sentence or that first paragraph, once you get through that, do you kind of clunk along? Are you still like constantly going back and then changing until you get it right and then you go on to the next sentence, or what's that like for you?
After the first few lines, the first paragraph, after that, it's usually just you're in the moment and you're in the groove and you're just going, and like time just sort of like stops, right? Is that what they say? Like it's like it slows down, but it speeds up because you look up and it's like it's what time? Oh man.
Yeah. That's another thing I love too.
I was gonna say I have to pick up my kids from school, but I don't have to worry about that anymore. Dang, that joke! I didn't retire that joke, man. Damn.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, the blank page can be intimidating. I guess, I do find myself, the first couple sentences I'll rewrite, but I don't get it perfect. I just kind of get it to where it's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I get that, first few sentences that are good enough, then it's boogie time, and then I can go. But it's funny, it's every time you get to that blank page, you almost have to laugh at yourself because you know you've been there before many, many times, and you know that you always get through it somehow. You know, you always end up with that paragraph written, however much of a pain in the ass it is. But you know, I have heard from Harlan Ellison and some other writers to stop while you're ahead. So when you're writing something that's really hot and you're boogieing along, and even though you're having a good time and you're feeling that joy, that you know, you should stop before you're cold, so that when you get back to the next session, that you have something to come back to. But then again, the story's got to end sometime, you know.
Yeah, the story has to end sometime. Right.
Right.
Now, what are your favorite moments of writing? Now, this is going to be a very writing-centric episode, so definitely. But like, what are the moments? Like, is it the characters, creating the setting? What is it really that gets you?
That's a very good question.
For me, it's
it's a good question. Yeah, go ahead.
For me, it's, see, I'm not really much of a, I don't spend a whole lot of time in describing setting. I find that to be kind of annoying at times. I might do that, like a couple lines, like one line in the beginning, to give you an idea where everyone's at, if it's important. But my thing is, I start getting in like emotions, like not describing the emotion, but showing the moments of anger, showing through a mixture of action and dialogue. What you know, once I start getting into that, that's when the momentum hits, and that's when I'm like, okay, all right, and I start really liking that, because like the ideas are flowing, and sometimes they're like, I don't know. Sometimes I find myself, well, I might be taking my rage or frustrations on a particular character. You know, it's like making this character go through hell because I'm seeing this character as maybe my boss, maybe someone else.
Right.
Yeah, maybe one of my neighbors.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I don't spend too much time on setting either. But I think I'm having the most fun when I'm writing dialogue intermixed with action, because when you do that, you're just doing all showing. And I find the pages go by, that word count just you know, zooms up when you're writing an action scene with characters that you relate to and that you're passionate about. You know, 1,000 words a day is really, really good for me. But if I find that I'm in the middle of a story and the action is really hot, oh man, I can, you know, there was one night I really surprised myself. I'm not, you know, a big word count guy, but I check my word count after every writing session when I feel like I'm done. And I was just finished writing this action scene, and, you know, like 4,000 words went by, you know, and that was quite a number of hours, you know, and it's very rare that happens, but I love it. I love it.
And everyone has their own pace, you know. Counting word count, man. See, the last, man. Okay, I'm bad on this. I know some people might try to call me out too. The last story I worked on was a story in a Terror Tract publication.
Terror Tract. Okay, I just submitted to them.
Yeah, it was called Hate, and it was a pretty crazy story, but I pretty much wrote that in a day, and it's just it's hard to find this excuse. Hard to find the time. I could find the time if I didn't, you know, dick around with like YouTube videos, or, you know, coming up with like show notes, or prepping for other episodes I want to do with the Deadman podcast or other things. And that's my choice. I realize that. But I guess what I'm getting at is, man, when it comes to word count, dude, I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't, because most days it's 0. So it's like, maybe one day I decide I'm going to write, so then I might crank out 4,000 words that day, but, you know, then the rest of the month it's like I'm not doing anything, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, But going into the joy of writing, having all those ideas, like just like, I don't know, pent up in my head. I don't know about you, but like when I'm not writing, it feels weird. Like I don't like it.
Don't you feel a little sick sometimes?
Yeah, I feel like
like
I have an itch or something. Like
yeah, that's right.
Like
there's a Bob Dylan. Oh, okay. No, it just reminds me. You said you have so many ideas kicking around your head. It reminds me of there's this Bob Dylan lyric, and he says it takes a dump truck mama to unload my head, and that's how I feel about writing too. The ideas are pretty easy to come by. They just come in unbidden, and then I don't know. I write them down. I keep a place where I write down all my ideas so I can go back to when I have that blank page. Sometimes they work out, and sometimes by the time I get back to them, I just don't give a shit about them anymore, and they're dead. But
and you're right about that. The ideas for most of us are pretty easy to come by. I mean, I guess some people have like writer's block or whatever. I think writer's block, I don't know. Sometimes I think people are just kind of like paralyzed, like mentally paralyzed, or just like maybe they're afraid, or maybe they feel like they can't. But that's a whole other subject. But yeah, like having a way to channel your ideas and put them out there. And for us, it's writing. For us, it's putting words on the page. When we're not doing that, we're grumpy or we're off. Or I find it, and this might sound kind of lame. I know Aaron's in the chat. He's giving some. I like what he's saying in the chat, by the way. Thank you, Aaron, for watching. When I'm not writing, or actually, I find the writing process really kind of therapeutic. Am I alone on that?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of catharsis there. No, for sure. A lot of catharsis in writing, and I totally get what you mean by, you get grumpy. That's me right there. And my fiance knows when I haven't written. Unfortunately.
It's like
what happens? Get grumpy. You get
what happens? Like, how does your fiance know? Like what's something that happens?
Well, nothing really happens. I just act weird. I'm just off. Like I'm not conversing in. I'm just not social. I'm kind of cold, maybe. And she'll be like, "Honey, do you need to go write or something?" And that's usually what it is. So. Yeah, she's really patient with me. So
it's almost like you're describing withdrawals. Like you're not using heroin, are you? You're not on smack or anything, are you?
No, sir.
All right, just make it sure. Make it sure.
Yeah,
I'm not a cop. It's all right. But this podcast is recorded. I mean, people will probably listen. Right. I don't know. Oh shit. All right. But yeah, that's I'm curious. By the way, for those listening, if you're listening on the podcast feed, let us know what you think about this. If it's in the chat, let us know definitely. Aaron, do you feel a certain way when you're not writing? For sure. Because I'm definitely curious about that. Because there's truth to that. It's, like even through the characters, the question of where do you get your ideas, where do you draw your inspiration, it's so that's so cliche, right? But the reason why I ask that at times is not for the cliche answers of like other horror authors. I don't really care about that. Everyone's gonna say Stephen King or Lovecraft. I'm kind of bored with that. I want to know, where do you really get it from? For me, maybe it's just me, but I often find that my characters kind of stem from, if I really think about it, step back and look at it, for like people that I know, things in my life. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm drawing from a well of experience, but my own personal experience, and it gets and I find that through these characters, it kind of transforms and becomes something else. It's like I could see my. Now that sounds therapeutic. It's like I could see my own personal demons fight each other on the page. Does that make sense? Or does that sound too in depth?
No, that makes perfect sense. I think you get your ideas just by. It sounds really oversimplistic, but just by living, you just by walking around. That's how you get your ideas. Just by like going through the hardships of life and the joys of life and everything that has offered. It's just. I mean, I don't know how you would not have ideas.
Yeah, that's how you would not have ideas. Well, I suppose. See, we're talking about if you find joy in writing. I wonder if there's people who don't find any joy in it and just write because it's an outlet. I could see that. I could think of a few people.
Yeah.
Well, even the goth girls, the emo girls that would write poetry, even they get something out of it. It's personal to them. They might not find it.
Yeah.
They might find it like an escape. So that doesn't really fit what you're talking about. But maybe someone,
Right.
maybe someone who had to come up with an idea on the fly because, like a publisher asked them to. They might not have any personal investment in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Could you just, like this writing contest where they're like, we want you to write based on this theme and do it within, a day or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
could you do something like that?
It's funny. This ties into Ray Bradbury said something like writer's block happens when your subconscious isn't giving a damn about what you're writing about, and you should write about something else. And so I find I've tried to write stories that are based off of a magazine or a publication that's asking for stories on a particular theme. And when I go to write that story, I find I'm forcing my hand, to conform to trying to tell a story. And
Right.
But my subconscious doesn't give a damn, so I don't give a damn. And what comes out isn't as good as the story that I would write if I were just writing for me without thinking about the market.
See, I'm horrible with that. And Aaron's right. Some writers do just crank out generic stuff. Like, imagine, and they may like that. I don't know if they definitely like the money. Like, what is that? Nicholas Sparks? Is that his name? The guy who writes all those romance books. Does he like that, or does he just do that for the money?
That's a good question. Well, that's maybe it's just a business to the guy. That's good. Maybe writing just is business to some people.
I wonder if J.K. Rowling even really likes writing about Harry Potter anymore. She said she was going to be done with it, but I don't know. Looks like she's going to do it again or something.
Oh, I bet she loves writing Harry Potter. I mean, I haven't read the books, but I get a sense that she probably loves what she's writing. I mean, she's got to be a rich lady, right? She could.
Oh, she is definitely a rich lady. I don't know. What is
she
her
could
net worth?
retire if she wanted to. So I would think that she's writing out of the joy of doing it. Although I'm sure the money isn't a deterrent.
Right. I mean, let's see. Stephen King. Man, that guy. He could turn out a story out of nothing, just about. And it's like, did you like this one, or did you just kind of sort of like ham it in? But if you get to that point where you're being paid to write and being asked to write a certain thing for the money, I guess then it's just kind of like a job. That's like a you'll find enjoyment somehow out of it, at least with the money.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess the best case scenario is if you're able to wed the two.
Right.
The joy of doing it and get the money out of what the art that you're creating. That's the ideal, huh?
Now, what part do you like better? And I think we might answer this. The actual writing process itself, or looking at the final product? When you read through it all and you see how it came out, and you see, let's even go further than that, and you get the feedback from people after they read it.
Yeah. Both are really good. I think, I probably enjoy the actual writing when I know it's good. When I know I'm writing something that's fast and that is really working. That's probably when I feel the best. Although I will, and when I'm editing, it takes me so long to edit stories because it's more time consuming than writing them. Because for me, anyway, I go back over every single word, every sentence, over and over and over until I can get it the best that I can, and that can take so many hours
Right.
for me. But I will say I have a writers group that I go to, and when I bring in a story and it works, and their eyes light up, my eyes light up. When they go, "Wow, this blew me away." That feels pretty damn good.
Now, is this like an in-person writing group or something on Facebook?
No, it's an in-person writing group.
Okay.
Yeah, the Willow Rivers writers group here in Wisconsin.
Hey, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's nice when you really gain something. I think when you sit at a table with about usually at our group there's about 10 people, maybe sometimes a little bit more,
And anyone,
and you can see everybody's.
ooh.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask if there's anyone in that group that maybe they publish things, maybe they've had things published, maybe they can help network as well.
I didn't hear that last part. What was that?
Do you know if there's people in that group that have stories published, and maybe one of them might actually be a publisher, at least, or know a publisher? That way, can network with them.
Yeah, that would be nice. I mean, I know a couple members of the group have had stuff, published in some publications, but as far as I know, there aren't any big connections to publishers.
Mm-hmm. And Aaron brought up
but who knows?
And Aaron in the chat brought up a point, and money isn't a good way to gauge a story. I mean, think of pre and post Disney Star Wars. It's like, that's screenplay writing, especially for like huge franchises. It's like it's gotten super lazy. It's like you guys aren't writing stories anymore. They're writing scenes and trying to connect the scenes together in some weird, very thin way that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I've read an article from a book about writing horror fiction, and it was published. I can't remember the title, but it was published by Crystal Lake Publishing.
Okay.
It was the volume 1 of a series, Making Your Nightmares. Oh, I can't remember it. But anyway, I read this article about how difficult, writing a screenplay and trying to sell it can be, and how it's sometimes much more difficult than writing short stories and trying to sell those, because I guess from what I hear, I have no personal experience with it. Sometimes somebody will write a screenplay and it'll sell, but then it's never made into a movie, and then it just sticks in a drawer for a couple of years.
Yeah, I've heard that too from other people. Yeah. There's even been screenplay writers that they'll talk about that. They'll sell a screenplay, but it'll just sit there somewhere, not being used. So that's a waste.
Oh, that's crazy.
I mean, if they made money off it, then it's like, well, okay. Well, I mean, maybe one day you'll see it on the screen, but by that time, even when that happens, it's probably gonna look so different from what you wrote. It's like you wrote the story, but the director's, he doesn't. He's gonna go a different way.
Yeah. Man, talk about being put on hold. That's
right.
I would imagine that would be kind of disappointing.
It would be. Now, let's see. Joy of writing. What else could we tackle on this? I could tell you what. What about this? What about all the other stuff, the extra stuff, like marketing, promoting? I know you mentioned editing.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that stuff?
I don't really care for the promotion part too much. That's probably my least favorite. But I do get sort of a perverse joy out of submitting the stories themselves to the market. I really enjoy scouting out, who's looking for what, and writing the emails and sending them out. That's a good time to me for whatever reason. I got a big spreadsheet where I keep, the title of the story, the date I submitted it, the date that was rejected, a lot of rejections, a lot of question marks.
I don't even have a spreadsheet for the stories I read. I used to, but then I got pretty relaxed on it. It's like, I'll know when I check the email. And if I don't like it, I'll let them know right away. That way I don't have to worry about, sitting on it or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's see. But for those interested, I do keep a spreadsheet of all the royalties and stuff like that. You got to. Let's see. Yeah, the promotion stuff, the marketing stuff, I find that I get lost in that. Like, it becomes a whole different skill, kind of. You're looking at your work. Okay, how am I going to summarize this in a tweet or some sort of catchy, maybe sensational like headline? How am I going to do that? And I'll come up with like little images or whatever to try to help promote. That's where most of these the memes, I call them memes, the images that would play on like in the background on some of the older streams, and I think I have your face on the screen now. Let me take that off real fast so I can show people this stuff. I'll start making a bunch of that and putting that out there, like Bikers vs. the Undead. I was like, well, that book is aimed towards bikers who definitely like booze, women, and bikes. So I'm gonna put some hot chicks with this book and just put that out there. That was a mixed bag.
Yeah.
It's like, because bikers aren't readers. Well, they can be. Bikers can be readers if they just know.
That's right.
They're not really looking on Amazon for a book, but if they know the book is there, oh yeah, they'll get it.
Yeah.
Like my neighbors, they all have bikes, and they like that book, but they didn't get it from Amazon. They got it from me. I was like, hey, there you go.
Oh, cool. Cool. So yeah, you live in a neighborhood where people are aware of who you are, and that you do writing, and that you edit and a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah, one of their kids went to the garage and they saw a poster of a baby being sacrificed to Satan.
Oh God.
That's a poster that's behind me now, and I had to explain. Pretty conservative in this area. I was like, oh no, guys, I write horror. I publish horror too. So here we go. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, promotion. It would be my only say. I could see how that could be very time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
I did have plans when I released when I published Daydreams of the Damned. I was thinking about doing a library tour where I'd go to each library and I'd give a little talk about writing and maybe I'd do a reading of one of the stories. But of course, as we know, the COVID-19 thing hit, and that never happened.
That really messed with a lot of stuff, conventions. Hopefully things will change.
Yeah, there was a scare, Care for Scares convention here in Racine, Wisconsin that was going to take place, and of course that
Brian Keene usually gets on that, huh?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but the joy of writing. I don't think of any other little sub points I want to tackle.
This is a very minute point, but
okay.
Do you ever get high off the sound of the? I don't know if you write on a laptop or a keyboard, but do you ever get high off the sound of the clicks and clacks? Like, do you ever notice that you're going along at a pretty damn good clip, and you listen to that sound? It's a sound of productivity to me. I just love it. That's
a
weird thing,
question.
maybe.
Do I ever get high?
Yeah.
Do I ever get high off the sound of the clicks of the keyboard?
Yeah.
As someone who still is a gamer, played a lot of PC games, the sound, especially on an old school computer, like with the old keyboards, the mechanical clink, dude, I love that sound. That sound
Yeah,
when
me
it's in
too.
full motion. Oh, that's great. Yeah, that sound.
I agree.
It sounds like you're working.
It does. It's, you could be writing absolute crap and still feel good about it. Like I'm punching these keys. I'm going along I'm showing up today.
That's right. I punched in for a
Yeah.
full shift. I feel it, man. I feel it. What I'm
That's
not
damn
when I'm
right.
just staring at the screen. I think what makes that worse, what builds that numinous feeling is the lack of the clicking. Your fingers are over the keyboard. You're like, I'm not gonna get this line just right. You're kind of sweating.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, man, people are gonna read this. We gotta make a good line.
It's a good
you're
point.
stuck.
Maybe looking. Yeah. The only other thing that I can think about, the joy of writing is the accomplishment. We did touch upon this maybe a little bit. The accomplishment one feels when you finish a story
Oh
or
yeah.
a book or whatever it is. I mean, don't you just say, "Oh, I got another one done," and you just cheer for yourself. Don't I won't lie. I pump my fists in the air when I finished a story.
That is good. That is good. And right before that, though, right before you're finished, there's a part when you're done, but you're not really done. So you have it all out, but there's some like contradictions, some messed up stuff that you have to fix. But after all that's done, oh yeah, it feels so good.
For sure.
Oh man. Now, you want to shift gears to something kind of gloomy?
Let's do it. Let's get gloomy.
I mean, part of the reason why we write, I don't know about you, part of the reason why I write is because of the worry that one day I'm going to die, and what am I going to leave behind? The worry of mortality, the worry that one day I'm going to die. How does that play into your writing?
There's a Dark Dreamers interview with Harlan Ellison, and he says, the only reason, or one of the biggest reasons writers do what they do is out of ego and posterity. This sort of hope that after you die, somebody somewhere is going to read a little bit of what you left behind, your work, your writing, and in that way you live on.
Right.
I mean, I definitely think about that, and it's kind of an absurd image, but I drew this very simple scale in my notebook the other day, and it's just a flat scale. On the left hand is joy of doing, and I'm in the middle, and on the far right hand is knowledge of death. And those two things, the joy of doing it and the knowledge that this is very temporary, and we get, for lucky, 76 years, and then we're gone. But it's a real motivator. Both things are a great motivation.
You're right there.
Joy and death.
It definitely can be a motivator.
Yeah.
For me, I think it was in college when we're talking about in a humanities course, we're talking about some literary greats or whatever. And these guys have essentially become immortal because their work lives on. Like, people read them, they talk about them, and they have no control about what people say about them. That's the thing, but their work lives on, right? So
Yeah.
I that's what I did become, or start become a little, I guess, fixated on what would be the lasting legacy. And it was like, and then I sort of put myself a check there. It's like, well, what I'm worried about is kind of, I'm hoping that someone finds my work later when I'm dead and they read it and they think something about me. Like, it's almost like it's a mix of narcissism and but preservation, right? Because you don't want to be gone forever. I mean, you don't want to just die, or do you?
Yeah.
Is it narcissistic?
Yeah, it's definitely narcissistic. I think it's definitely egoistic, and it's difficult to transcend that. Frank Zappa says to be remembered is not important, and I agree with him. But emotionally, I fear being forgotten, which is such a, you know, this it is an egoistic thing, because if you think of the amount of people that have lived on planet Earth, and all those people have died, and so few names remain, all their gravestones are washed over and plummeted, and you just have a few names in history that happen to make it, and people say whatever they want about them. And to say that out of all those untold billions that have died, that I'm the one that people should remember, So it is, it's an interesting thing. Like, intellectually, I know it's stupid to want to be remembered, but emotionally, I feel that I want to be,
And Aaron brought up a good point in the chat that it seems like most relevant writers never got the fame or fortune for what they wrote for while they were still alive. There's Lovecraft. I mean, he didn't become famous and popular until he was dead,
Right.
He was poor. Didn't make any real money off his work. Now, Cthulhu is like, if you really want to sell a book real fast with minimal work, just put Lovecraft or Cthulhu stuff. It's still relevant now,
Yeah, absolutely. Posthumous fame.
Like, if I wanted to make an anthology that was going to make a return, make a safe return, if I was going to be a Hollywood bean counter, I'd make all my anthologies Lovecraft related until that oil's all dried up, And whenever I think the bubble's about to burst, it just keeps on going. It's like, okay. Zombies are pretty much done though. But that's a whole other thing. But yeah, coming up with stuff so that way you live on, past, your life where you are not forgotten. The fear of being forgotten is something that drives a lot of us. Something that that's a worry that's on a lot of our minds, because one day you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Could be later on today. Could be tomorrow. Could be next week. It's just, and what do you have left after that?
Right. Yeah. Kind of touches on a lot of things. And it's there's a Latin phrase, Memento Mori, remember that you must die. And not only is that good to keep in mind for, motivation for writing, this idea of maybe cheating death a little bit, like, haha, I might be dead, but there's a piece of me, there's a piece of my soul on this paper that's out there for people to enjoy still.
Right.
But, just overall, that's a good thing to keep in mind, So when, you leave for work in the morning, you make sure to kiss your wife, your fiance, and, say a few kind words, and you want to end things well when you keep in mind your own mortality, because you don't want that last moment to be unfortunate, because it could be the last moment for you, it could be for the other person.
Right.
Yeah.
That is a worry right there. See, that I didn't start thinking about family, about the mortality of others until I, of course, when I had a family. That's what a shift gears is like. And that's actually when the very narcissistic thinking of, I got to think about my work, I got to put it out there. When I had my first son, I was like, my whole mentality kind of shifted. It was then about writing to produce, or not just writing, but also work. It was like, it's about trying everything I do, try to maximize my gains if I can. So I haven't really thought about what happens afterwards.
What do you mean maximize your gains?
Like, instead of writing for me, maybe write for, like, not necessarily write for the market, but like I said, put out like a Lovecraft theme anthology, because I know it's going to make something in return, and maybe I'll be able to help pay some bills with the money I get from it. so that I have some more money on the side. You know, like stuff like that.
Sure, I see what you mean.
Because the family benefits. You know, my kids definitely benefit. Things like, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was writing for me, solely for me, that's where my short stories come in. That's where my short story collection with Deadhead, where all those stories are pretty much, they wouldn't really be published by anyone else because they're so wild and fucked up that I don't think anyone else would really publish them.
Yeah.
That's not mainstream material.
Sure.
Let's see.
Well, I'm curious. Well, I'm curious about your collection. Like, is it like extreme horror, like Edward Lee kind of horror, or is it how would you do?
It is. It's pretty extreme, pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Like, and that's something else we could talk about here tonight. Like, I don't know about for you, but like, I don't really have any subject that's off limits. Like in that collection, I think the first story, it almost looks like it's gonna be like a Stranger Things thing because you have like kids that are involved and they're searching for this thing that devoured a dog or whatever. But all the characters are kind of fucked up. Like their dad lives in a trailer park and he's a pothead. Then one of the neighbors' kids has meth on him, but they call it crystal. They don't even they call it rock candy. They don't even know what it is. They call it rock candy, and they give it to each other thinking it's just candy, which later on one of them eats, and that becomes a thing. They're doing all this stuff, and these are kids. These are kids doing it, but in like a way a kid would understand it. But no, don't worry. There's no like Stephen King like orgy in a tunnel or anything like that. But it's not like it matters. I'm just having now. I just admitted that I have kids that are using meth in one of my stories, and that's the first story. Okay. Later on, there's a story where Cthulhu gets a job. There's something really bad about that one, except for maybe the. Well, there's nothing bad about that. But then there's one called Mommy of the Year where it's pretty much like a meth head mom who's like, it's a story about a life in a dope house, about a meth head mom who is pretty much choosing meth over taking care of her baby. Actually, she has two little kids. One little kid on the floor eating Rice Krispies that was spilled out, and she's fighting the roaches for it. And then there's a baby in the crib who pretty much who's playing with a dead rabbit. This is all.
Oh man.
Yeah, and their mom is getting fucked by some guy that reminds her of her uncle. It's all fucked up and whacked out shit. Like it is trailer park debauchery. It is life in the U.S. in some parts.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean that must make those stories pretty powerful. You know, they're based off of a reality of some sort, something that you've been exposed to it.
And that's
you know what I mean?
Totally. I mean, that's true. I mean, when I said earlier that the writing is kind of, I guess, therapeutic for me, in a way, it's like a dump. It's some stories, especially another one, a few in that collection. It's like an information dump of like horrible shit that are just within. I just have to purge it.
Yeah.
I literally have a story called Die, where all the story is a dialogue, pretty much at a dinner table, where it's a wild ride. His mom gives him a platter, like a dish platter, right? And she opens the tray. It's nothing but cocaine, like written out with the word "die," and the whole family's just saying, "Snort up, little bitch, because we want you to die." They use stronger language than that, and the way they do it, it starts off. Well, I would say it starts off subtle. It just increases with the absurdity and the insanity. Like the guy's like, "Am I being pranked here? Like you guys are serious?" And like, with that one, I was trying to go for a. like a kind of like a Kafkan sort of thing, you know, just absurdity. See how far it goes to where you're wondering, is this real? This was happening? And there's a part where the dad is pouring bleach down the guy's throat, or the guy's own dad is pouring bleach down his throat. It's crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, it sounds tough as nails. But you know, maybe not stories for grandmothers to read, but you know, it sounds heartfelt. You know, you're putting some real emotion in there. That's good. I think that's better than that kind of art is probably better than just writing for money. But that's my guess. I don't think I've read a lot of stuff, at least to my knowledge, that was written just for income.
No. Oh, I'm sure we have. I know we all have. Like, have you read anything that was just written for income? Because I'm pretty sure you might have.
Yeah.
Have you ever picked up? I don't want to name any names right now. But okay.
Sure.
Okay. Let's go ahead. Wait, before we talk about assholes, and how would people need to shut up? Let's make sure we plug a little bit about your book. Let's talk a little about it. So, what about the stories in your book? Let's say someone picks this up. What story should they start off first? Like, what is a story or two stories that really sell this short story collection?
Well, you know, there's 22 stories in here, and there's quite a lot of variety. You know, most of them are horror. Some are just strange. There's also Western in there. There's a pulpy kind of a crime story in there. But if there was one that I would point to for horror fans, I would point to a story called The Voice. And it's like the fifth story in the collection. And I really had a great time writing that story, and it's pretty dark. And it is basically, it takes place on Halloween night, and it is about this man who does a hit and run on a trick-or-treater.
Okay.
And
just drive by, shoot, or like hit and run, like just hit him with the car.
Yeah, it's an accident. It's not on purpose. He just hits the kid on a rural country road.
Kills him?
Where the kids kills him. Yeah, the kid ends up in a ditch, and you know, he peels back the skeleton mask, and it's just full of blood, and the kid's good as dead, and and he runs from the scene, and he goes home, and his consciousness. Well, the thing about the story is you aren't quite sure. There's a voice in his head, and either it's the voice of his conscience, or it's an external voice, something evil from some other place, that is haunting him over this thing. And there's a lot. I don't want to give anything away, but there's quite a heightening of terror and suspense, and it has such a gruesome ending.
Yeah.
And so I would recommend that one. And for people who are more into literary stuff, you know, like strange tales that aren't, you know, I would recommend a story called A Skeleton Reads Shakespeare. And it's a personal favorite of mine. And
A Skeleton Reads Shakespeare. What's going on in that story?
A Skeleton Reads Shakespeare. Well, it's exactly the title. In the opening, you have this skeleton who is thinking, who is conscious, who is alive, and he is a fan. You know, he's got this big tome of Shakespeare, and he reads it. It's a very poetic opening image where he's reading it under this kind of black maple tree. And but what's going on is he is he's living in his house with his family, and it's a good, healthy family. You have a mother and a father and a daughter, and nobody can see him except for the daughter.
Okay.
But he's invisible in all other respects. But he's living with his family, and at first maybe the reader might be questioning the goodness of his character, but the character really is a good person, and he's sort of cursed because, and it relates to mortality. He, you know, his wife died a long time ago, but he is doomed to eternity. It seems to be this skeleton that nobody sees, and so he ends up in this house with his family, and the family grows up, and the daughter grows up, and she moves out, and then there's another family that moves in, and then they move out a bit quicker, and pretty soon the house deteriorates. That's what happens with time and entropy. And he's left in this house that's abandoned and decrepit, and he's looking out these windows. Sometimes kids on the street riding their bikes will see him and they'll wave, or they won't wave. Excuse me. They'll be frightened and they'll run away, or they'll be frozen with fear. But this character is quite gentle and means no harm. And what happens is, one day a lady comes up to the front door of the house and she puts on this no trespassing, sign on the front and condemned.
I was getting excited for him. A lady comes up to the house, but no trespassing. Okay.
Yeah. That's the thing too. He misses sex. You can't have a boner when you're all bones, really.
Right.
He says words to that.
Oh man.
It does.
Man.
It's a story that doesn't leave out lust. He just wants to be human. He wants to have sex. He wants to drink, a glass of wine. Maybe he wants to interact with people. And what happens is, the demolition crew comes in, and his skull goes this way, his arm goes that way. He's crushed, and he's taken to a landfill with the remnants of the house. And what's left of him, he's not a skeleton anymore. It's just consciousness. And it's dark, and it's quiet, and soon, it's a sort of blessing. And it relates to Shakespeare. This to be or not to be question. It only makes sense if you're mortal. But if you're immortal,
is a deep story. That is a deep story, my man. That's good.
I try. I think it's good. I won't give any more away, but that's pretty much that's the gist of it. But it relates to the death thing. Not only do we want to survive, I also think that death is what makes life special. Because it makes life rare. If you only have so many years, that makes life this precious thing that maybe you don't want to waste. But if you could imagine like an immortality on this planet, when things get boring, when things get pretty treacherous, once you've seen everything there is to see and you've lived on this planet for another 1,000 years, wouldn't you want a way out? That's cynical, but that's kind of what I think.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, like, if you could live forever, like, be immortal, would life be boring? Would it get boring? I could imagine someone who has immortality and was just lazy with it. Was like a lazy couch potato. Oh, gee, that's an old saying, man. But imagine all they did was play Fortnite all day or something. But they're immortal. That's what you did with your existence? I mean...
Yeah.
Man. But there's a story I read in your collection. It was the first one. It had a similar theme. It was about a couple that they were buried together. Yeah.
Yep.
What was it called? Married until death does us part?
Till death do us never part.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. And it kind of relates... You have a sort of like gothic romanticism sort of theme to it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I guess so. I never thought about that, but yeah, I'm flattered you read one of my stories. Thanks, man.
Well, I do some reading.
Oh, I know you do for sure.
I do some. I could always do more. Probably spend less time on YouTube and getting into spats with other podcasts like the Killstream and Pod Awful. But okay.
Yeah, I guess I would describe it. That's a good description. I know a lot of the stories in there really have a lot of different styles. At least I think so. So the next story would probably be pretty different.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what about assholes? That's our last topic here tonight. Oh, to Timothy, that short story collection is out, and it's called Deadhead. I was going to call it Fucked. I was just going to call it Fucked. I was like, tell my wife, I should just call this book Fucked. Because really, all these stories are pretty messed up. And I like talking to you and sharing these story ideas, or sharing both of our stories, because it does show kind of like two different... Like, mine are like very violent and offensive. And if you were read out loud, if you were read out loud on YouTube, your stream would be flagged for hate speech, not because of what you said, but just because the characters are just so fucked up. But I like the other stuff. I like the psychological horror as well. And I think there's a skill to pull that off. And I think you have that skill from what I read.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Now,
I look forward to checking out your short story collection. I like to be shocked, so I look forward to that.
It will shock you for sure. So assholes. We all know some. We're all in some ways assholes, aren't we not? But I think, what is it? I pitched this to you, a topic that really grinds your gears, something that pisses you off. So why don't you take the lead on this one?
Well, I don't know. You asked what pisses me off, and my original answer was something to the liking of ignorant people who don't come with closed mouths. It's this idea. Basically, what irritates me is people who are very, very willing to prevaricate and share their opinion with you, and they're full of belief and conviction, and that's fine. But the problem, what annoys me, is when they're full of belief and conviction, but when you question them about what they know, they don't really seem to know a lot, and so they're just going on this emotional fuel without any sort of basis in reality, other than I like to believe this and I like to share it a lot. Mm-hmm. So that annoys me. What annoys me more is you can't have a conversation with them like you and I can do now. This is the sort of person that believes what they want to believe, and while they might be very willing to share their opinion, they are not willing to question their belief or have a reasonable conversation.
Yeah, with something like that, it really takes both parties to be willing to actually talk and share ideas. I'll tell you right now, social media is not the place for that. Like Facebook, Twitter, I find that, like arguing on Facebook and Twitter, I find that stuff to be annoying and pointless. And I've done it too. I know I've done it. Hell, this week, last week, during the COVID stuff, maybe it's because I was pinned in, everyone's locked in at that time, and just letting out frustrations, and there's just I had some stuff to say. I was like, okay, and I came off as an asshole to some people, probably came off as ignorant to some people. In my mind, I thought it was okay. I thought it was right. See, even these guys who think they're ignorant, or even these guys that are ignorant, they think that they're right. They think they're, that the evidence is on their side. But Facebook is not the place. Maybe something like this where people can actually talk and go over ideas. Sure. But,
it seems like social media is definitely a place where, I guess, I haven't encountered a lot of fruitful conversations about serious issues, especially if it involves politics or religion.
Yeah. Anymore, when I see a politics-related post, I just keep on scrolling. I keep on scrolling. I try to. Sometimes it might be of a particular type. You've seen the videos I post on this YouTube channel. Sometimes there's something that gets my attention. I just have to talk about it. It's like, but yeah. But I tried to avoid that on Facebook, on the Twitter, for the very reason that someone might just think that I'm just being an asshole coming in, just talk and run in my mouth. And they completely miss a point that I brought up because of emotion. They think I'm emotional. Maybe I was emotional. I don't know. And they have their emotions that maybe they're triggered by something. So we're not really actually talking. We're more like, talking over each other or whatever.
Yeah,
But
right. Yeah. What comes to mind for me is, like young Earth creationists, for example. Is the kind of people that I think of. Some people.
Wait. You mean
Yeah.
the Earth isn't 6,000 years old? Come on now. Come on.
No, that's my knowledge.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Are you are you a globalist?
No, I know it's shocking.
You're not a globalist, are you?
What does that even mean? Actually, what is the globe? What does that mean?
Dude, do you believe that the Earth is round?
Yeah, I do.
Oh my God! Really? No way! I mean, come on.
The horror.
You've never seen space, right? How can you say that? You don't even know. You only say that because you got a globe. You seen a globe at school, and they're like, the Earth is round, so you just believe them. Pfft, wake up.
I've been indoctrinated, haven't I? All this time, I thought the Earth was round.
No, but I get what you mean. So what is it about the 6,000 young Earthers?
Well, it's an example of people who have renounced reason, and it's people who are very passionate, but it's misplaced in this dogma or this ideology that really has no basis in actual reality, other than these are beliefs that they really enjoy and they like to believe, but it doesn't really seem to have any relation to truth. Thomas Paine had this thing. He had a quote, something like, trying to argue with someone who has renounced reason is like administering medicine to the dead.
That's nice.
Yeah, I thought that was good. Yeah. So I guess that irritates me.
Well, I agree.
But then again, I don't go around having conversations with them. Yeah.
I would laugh at that. If I saw something like that, I would flat out laugh at that. Flat Earthers, young Earthers, those guys, I joke around with. I think they're funny. They're fodder for material if I wanted to cover that sort of stuff, because it's like, come on. Don't worry, Timothy.
Yeah.
He's not going to shit on Christianity because I'm going to do it for him. But I say that as someone who goes to church, who was a deacon, or I was a deacon at a church. I'm no longer a deacon.
Yeah.
That was a beer. I'm no longer a deacon because they saw these streams and they realized what I do. No. I'm an equal opportunity shitter. I'll shit on just about anything and everything. Shit. But I still go to church. I do.
What do you enjoy church?
I actually really do enjoy the community aspect. Like the church I go to, I've been going to since I was a kid. And like I don't really know everyone there because I don't really talk to all of them, but it's a small church and most of them are kind of really old. So I kind of go there for that. I go there for them, and I look around and the church is dying, like literally, like they're aging out. They're losing people. And it's kind of sad. It's like because it's a good one, and it's like, well, because it's very laid back. It's not all like, well, it's not a Catholic church. I'm not a Catholic. I'm a Protestant, so it's a pretty laid back church. You go there, you listen to the sermon, and you do your communion, and it's you socialize. It's good.
Right.
My kids enjoy.
I can totally get that aspect of community and having friends. Definitely important.
Yeah. some parts, like I don't have anything bad to say about the church I go to because like it doesn't really have anything really bad to talk about other than well, actually really nothing other than it's dying. But then you hear about stuff in the news where like maybe I don't know, like a minister's going crazy, saying some crazy things. It's like, oh, okay, that's not helpful.
Yeah.
Like the guys that are on TV, like Joel Osteen or whatever, like that stuff. I think that gives a bad example, a bad taste, and people that are like young Earth creationists, that also leaves a bad taste. It's like they don't put. I think you might agree with me here. When they base everything they do solely on the Bible, everything they do, everything they think, everything they do. For me, it's like, well, but it doesn't work that way, It's like some of the stories are just kind of more stories. So there's maybe you can have they're like metaphors, maybe it's just. But it's not like science. It's not necessarily like. Not all those stories are something that you want to live by. Like the moments of incest, you definitely don't want to emulate that, right?
I was going to say, Old Testament especially, it seems ill-advised. Yeah.
Yeah. But
it strikes me, when I think about this, and it almost seems like fiction. I think the Bible is mostly fiction, but thinking about this idea of people basing their lives in all aspects on one book that was written a very long time ago by, primitive men. It seems like that very idea is sort of like something that a fantasist would write, or somebody who writes stories. Like that seems a story I would want to write, I guess the story's already been written in reality, but
well, think about it this way.
It strikes me as strange.
What if like all of humanity was wiped out one day, maybe tomorrow, or whatever, and I don't know, some other life form comes down, or somehow another life form appears, I don't know, and they stumble upon I don't know, like Harry Potter or Star Wars, and they don't have any context for it, so maybe I'm in that scenario, I could see how it may be possible for an alien to look at like Star Wars text or Harry Potter book and think maybe this was like a religious thing, maybe, because they wouldn't know. It's not like they would know, right? Kind of like how we look at ancient civilizations, we think like the Sumerian texts, we're like, were they really talking about aliens here? What were they doing?
Yeah.
It's so disconnected to us, so we don't really know what the context is. So we just make any sort of inference, really.
That's a good point.
So yeah,
good point.
But yeah, I agree for the most part that people, should probably shut their mouths, myself included. I do that. I have run my mouth all the time on the show, all the time.
I guess my concern isn't really about being quiet or anything like that. It's just about being able to have a reasonable discussion about your beliefs and being open to evidence and being open to a truth that maybe you would feel uncomfortable about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you get that from like a forum like this on a podcast. If this was like a more political podcast or a religious podcast, could go into certain points, but no, it's like here we talk about horror writing, so we could talk about our different things, our different opinions on that, which we've done. But I totally get you on that. Oh, one question I
Yeah.
ask all my guests. What is your favorite horror movie and why?
Ooh. Damn. I would have to say, I'd have to say, shit. It depends on the day, but either Night of the Living Dead, George Romero, or I would go with Dawn of the Dead. Those
The
those
original
two
or the
movies,
remake?
The original, from the '78 Dawn
But
of
the
the Dead.
remake wasn't. I mean, for Zack Snyder, that wasn't a bad Zack Snyder film.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Probably one of his best.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen all of Zack Snyder's movies, but I did enjoy the remake.
He did pretty much. He did a lot of the DC stuff. He did a lot of the. He did what Superman Returns and the Batman versus Superman. Have you ever seen those?
No, unfortunately I haven't.
Good. They're really not that good.
Oh, good.
The best part about Batman versus Superman was the fight between Batman and Superman, which wasn't really. I mean, I would just watch clips of that on YouTube, and I was like, "All right, that's the movie. That's it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done."
Did Zack Snyder do Watchmen, or is that a different director? I enjoyed that.
I don't know. Let me search that. Maybe someone in the chat can help us out. Who directed The Watchmen? I don't think that was Zack Snyder. Who did The Watchmen? I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah.
It was him. Look at that. Hey.
Oh, it
was.
Cool.
Look at that.
I thought that was a good film. I enjoyed that quite a lot.
It was good. But
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, good picks, man. Night of the Living Dead, classic.
Yeah. I discovered that movie on a VHS tape when I was about 12, and when I was done watching that movie, I put it in again. I put it in and rewound it, and watched it over again. So I've seen that movie many times, and it's like, I don't know, it's like my version of The Wizard of Oz. I want to rewatch it over and over, and I always somehow resonate with it. And same thing with Dawn of the Dead, even though it's a bit of a longer movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your version of The Wizard of Oz, that's pretty good. Except there's no musical. There's no singing along. And there's no witches either.
That's true. I guess I just mean in the sense that it's a classic in my mind. Like a feel-good classic. Even though there's zombies and flesh eating and all that stuff. I guess that's my feel-good.
But let me ask you, what is scarier? The flying monkeys in The Wizard of Oz or the zombies?
Damn, I would have to go with the flying monkeys. If I were walking down the street, a bunch of flying monkeys came out of nowhere, I wouldn't know how to handle myself.
Yeah, I'll
right.
My
But
pants
if you had some slow walking zombies, we've had 4 decades of how to deal with these guys from TV. So at least we could run away. But flying monkeys, you got one on your back, maybe one on your head. They start clawing away.
Right.
Little needle teeth.
Sent by some wicked witch. Nah. I want to hang out with the nice witch. I want to hang out with with the nicer one. She's just gone. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, now that you mentioned the flying monkeys, how terrifying that is, and that was a little, for kids. If you're a kid, that scene was probably pretty scary. But Wizard of Oz could make you could turn that into a horror film.
You could easily. Have you ever seen Return to the Wizard of Oz or Return to Oz? Return to Oz.
No, I would very much like to. I haven't seen that yet.
I've read it was a book, and I read the kids' book version of it. It was dark, even for the. Yeah, pretty barbaric. Yeah. Crazy. It's like everything's gone to shit. The magic was gone.
Yeah. I as a kid, somebody had told me this, and I haven't rechecked it, but I'm sure it's completely false. It's complete BS. But somebody had told me when I was a kid that one of the Munchkins hung themselves on the set, and that in one of the scenes in
was
the
that really
forest,
the one of the
that you could
Munchkins?
see it.
Yeah, there is that there's that legend that you could in like one of the I guess the older copies you could see someone hanging. I thought that was someone else who I thought there was someone who auditioned to be a Dorothy. Maybe it was one of the Munchkins. I don't know, but apparently someone hung themselves on set. They said. That's
Yeah, and it's probably bullshit, but when I was a kid, I used to in that scene, I would be looking, it'd kind of creep me out, but it would keep me very engaged, glued to the screen.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely.
Yeah.
I'll sell some tickets. Well, watch Disney try to do that with Return. Oh, was it Revenge of the Skywalker? Return of the Sky. What was the name of the Rise of the Skywalker? They're like, hey, watch. In one of the scenes with the Emperor, you see someone hanging, but you have to watch very closely.
Yeah.
See George Lucas hanging, feeling remorseful, seeing what happened to his franchise. he thought the mouse was going to take care of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you by chance a subscriber to Shudder?
I'm not. That's like one services I'm not a subscriber to.
So there's a series that I just watched on there that was really good. It was about things in movies that you can look for and stuff. Well, actually, it was called Cursed Films, and it's about these mythologies that people build up around the making of films.
Oh, okay.
About them being cursed. So you had The Exorcist is one episode, and the next one is The Omen, Poltergeist, Twilight Zone, The Crow, and it's a really good documentary because you had interviews with people who actually made the movies. It wasn't just interviews with fans who like to prevaricate on the movies, but people who made the movies. So I highly recommend it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I gotta check that out. Okay.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it.
All right. Well, we're kind of coming towards the end here. Just a reminder for everybody: I guess Amazon. I was gonna say, where can people get your book? The one place where people get books, Amazon. But yeah, plug your book one last time, and we'll wrap up.
Cool. Well, Daydreams of the Damned is the name of the book, and
Daydreams of the
there's
Damned.
22 Daydreams of the Damned, and it's available on Amazon. Kindle for $4.99, paperback for $9.99, and if you like horror and you like strange tales, and you might enjoy it greatly.
All right, man.
That's my pitch.
All right, Mr. James, it was great having you on the show, guys. Thank you so much for watching, Timothy, Aaron. Man, you're keeping company in the chat here. Thank you. I was actually a little worried. No, I wasn't worried at all. Like I really care that some other people might come in to start trolling. But if that happens, I can handle it easily. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. You guys take it easy.